The forest was alive with 1,000 sounds that morning: chirps, whistles, rustles of unseen creatures moving between the thick undergrowth. Shafts of golden sunlight filtered through the towering canopy, painting shifting mosaics on the damp earth. The village of Kalyanpur, nestled at the edge of this vast wilderness, was just beginning its day. Farmers led their oxen into the fields, children chased each other barefoot near the river, and the smell of fresh chapatis wafted from clay stoves. But beneath the apparent calm, trouble was brewing. Kalyanpur had always lived in an uneasy truce with the forest. Leopards occasionally stole goats, wild boars raided crops, and monkeys snatched fruit from baskets. Yet these were annoyances, not disasters. That morning, however, shrill cries pierced the stillness. "Help! Somebody help! The python has taken our pig!" The voice belonged to Ravi, a wiry boy of 12, sprinting barefoot down the dusty road that cut through the village. His face was pale, his breath ragged, and his eyes brimmed with tears. Behind him came his older sister, Anika, clutching her shawl tightly, her own cries rising in panic. Villagers dropped what they were doing. A pig was no small matter, livestock was survival. But Ravi's words carried more weight than just the loss of food. Everyone in Kalyanpur knew of the giant python rumored to haunt the ravines nearby. It had been spotted twice that year, coiled like a monstrous rope along the riverbank. The elders claimed it was no ordinary snake but a relic of old times, a creature that had grown too big and too bold. Within minutes, a crowd gathered in the square. Ravi was gasping, trying to explain. He and Anika had taken their family's prized pig, Golu, to forage near the mango groves. While they played, a sudden rustle froze them. From the tall grass slithered a python as thick as a tree trunk and longer than a bullock cart. Its scales gleamed with sinister beauty, black and olive patterns flashing in the light. Before they could scream, it struck. The snake's jaws clamped around Golu's hind legs, dragging the squealing animal into the underbrush. Ravi had thrown rocks, Anika had screamed, but the python didn't loosen its grip. They had no choice but to run for help. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The pig was valuable, more than food, it was income, a dowry promise, a future. But facing a giant python, that was a death wish. Some villagers shook their heads, muttering that nature must be left alone. Others clenched their fists, unwilling to let such a loss pass unchallenged. That was when Arjun stepped forward. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sunburnt skin and the calm eyes of a man who had seen too much, Arjun had earned respect across Kalyanpur. Once a soldier, he had returned from service years ago to care for his widowed mother. He now worked as a forest guard, often patrolling the boundary where human life blurred into wilderness. If anyone could face the python, it was him. "I'll go," he said simply. Gasps rose. Some begged him not to risk his life. Others, emboldened, offered to join. Among them was Meera, a veterinary doctor who had come from the city months earlier to study local wildlife. Though soft-spoken, she carried a quiet determination. Then there was Bhaskar, the burly farmer whose strength was matched only by his temper, and young Kabir, an apprentice hunter eager to prove himself. Within minutes, the rescued team had formed: Arjun, Meera, Bhaskar, and Kabir, with Ravi insisting on leading them to the spot. They armed themselves hastily: long bamboo poles, a coil of rope, a few machetes. Someone handed Arjun a rusty spear, its tip dull but still sharp enough to matter. The villagers watched as the group set out toward the grove, their figures shrinking against the towering wall of trees. The jungle swallowed them quickly. Every step was tense. The air grew damp, heavy with the smell of earth and decay. Birds shrieked warnings overhead, and unseen monkeys rattled branches. Ravi walked ahead, trembling but determined, pointing out the way. "It was here," he whispered finally, stopping near a clearing littered with trampled grass. The silence was eerie. Then they saw it. A massive coil slithered between the roots of a sal tree, muscles rippling under gleaming scales. And within its crushing embrace, Golu squealed helplessly, his pink body thrashing. The python's head rose slowly, tongue flickering, eyes like polished stones fixing on the intruders. Mira's breath caught. It's enormous. At least 20 feet, maybe more. Bhaskar gripped his machete tightly. We can't just watch. We have to act. But Arjun raised a hand. No sudden moves. It hasn't struck at us yet. If we charge blindly, we'll all end up in its coils. The pig squealed louder, struggling as the snake tightened its grip. The sound twisted everyone's hearts. Ravi cried out, rushing forward, but Arjun yanked him back just in time. We need a plan, Arjun muttered. They crouched in the underbrush, eyes fixed on the monstrous predator. Mira, her mind racing, whispered, pythons kill by constriction, not venom. If we can distract it, force it to loosen its grip, Golu might get free. How? Bhaskar demanded. Arjun studied the scene. The snake's head was raised, alert. Attacking from the front was suicide. But maybe, just maybe, they could confuse it. Bhaskar, you're strong. You'll draw its attention. Wave your machete, make noise, but don't get too close. Kabir, circle behind with the rope. If it lunges, try to loop its neck. Mira, stay ready, help the pig if it breaks free. I'll cover from the side with the spear. It was madness, but it was all they had. They moved into position, hearts hammering. Bhaskar let out a roar, charging a few steps forward and slamming his machete against a tree. The clang echoed like thunder. The python's head snapped toward him instantly, eyes blazing. Its body shifted, loosening slightly around Golu. The pig squealed louder, sensing hope. Now! Arjun shouted. Kabir darted forward, rope in hand, trying to fling it over the snake's head. But the python struck with terrifying speed, jaws snapping. Kabir stumbled back, narrowly missing death. Arjun lunged with the spear, aiming for the side of its body, not to kill but to prod. The sharp tip pierced a scale, and the python recoiled in fury, loosening its grip just enough. Mira rushed forward, pulling at Golu's slippery body. Come on, she urged. The pig shrieked, kicking wildly, half free but still caught by a coil. The snake whipped around, tail lashing. Bhaskar was knocked off his feet, crashing into the dirt. The air filled with chaos, shouts, squeals, the hiss of the enraged predator. Then, with one desperate heave, Arjun drove the spear deeper into the ground beside the snake's head, pinning it momentarily. Now, Mira! He bellowed. With all her strength, she yanked Golu free. The pig tumbled into the grass, dazed but alive. Ravi cried out in joy, rushing to scoop him up. But the battle was far from over. Freed of its prey, the python turned on the rescuers. Its massive body surged forward, knocking Arjun aside. The spear clattered uselessly. Kabir screamed as the coils whipped around his leg, dragging him toward the crushing embrace. Help him! Bhaskar roared, charging with his machete. He hacked at the coils, each strike bouncing off thick muscle. Kabir kicked wildly, terror in his eyes. Arjun staggered up, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. He grabbed the rope from the ground, shouting, over the head. With a swift motion, he looped it around the snake's thick neck. Bhaskar grabbed the other end, and together they pulled with all their might. The python thrashed, hissing furiously, its body convulsing. Kabir scrambled free, gasping in shock. For a moment, man and beast were locked in a deadly tug of war, muscles straining, rope biting into palms. Hold it! Arjun yelled. But the snake's strength was monstrous. With one violent jerk, it nearly ripped the rope from their hands. Bhaskar fell backward, wind knocked out of him. The python surged toward Arjun, jaws opening wide enough to swallow half his body. Time slowed. Then a crack echoed. Mira, in desperation, had grabbed a fallen branch and slammed it against the snake's eye. The creature recoiled in pain, thrashing wildly. Arjun seized the chance, driving the blunt end of the spear into its gaping mouth. Not to kill, killing such a beast was nearly impossible with what they had, but to force it back. The python writhed, body crashing against trees, sending leaves raining down. Finally, with a furious hiss, it turned and slithered rapidly into the undergrowth, disappearing like a nightmare retreating into shadow. Silence fell. The team collapsed to the ground, panting, drenched in sweat. Golu squealed nearby, shaken but alive, nuzzling against Ravi. The boy hugged his pig tightly, tears streaming down his face. Mira's hands shook as she wiped mud from her arms. Bhaskar groaned, clutching his ribs. Kabir sat pale and trembling, still unable to process how close he had come to death. Arjun leaned on the spear, chest heaving, eyes scanning the forest to ensure the snake was truly gone. Then he let out a long breath. It's over. For now. The walk back to the village was slow, but triumphant. Villagers rushed to meet them, cheers erupting when they saw Golu alive and well. Ravi and Anika became instant heroes, though they clung close to Arjun, Mira, Bhaskar, and Kabir, the true saviors. That night, a feast was held. Rice, lentils, roasted vegetables, and sweet jaggery filled every plate. Golu wandered happily among the children, who giggled as they fed him scraps. Yet amid the celebration, Arjun's gaze was distant. When Mira asked what troubled him, he spoke quietly. The python isn't gone. It's still out there. Next time, it may not take a pig. It may take a child. We were lucky today. Mira nodded, her eyes serious. Then we must be ready. Not just with courage, but with knowledge. People need to understand how to live alongside creatures like that, without becoming their prey. Bhaskar grunted, raising his cup. If it comes again, we'll fight again. Together. Kabir, though still shaken, straightened with new resolve. And next time, I won't freeze. The fire crackled, sparks rising into the starlit sky. For tonight, at least, the village celebrated courage, unity, and survival. The tale of the rescue would be told for generations, growing with each retelling. The day when ordinary villagers became warriors, when a pig's life became the symbol of defiance against the wild. And somewhere deep in the jungle, the python coiled silently in the darkness, its hunger unquenched, its cold eyes gleaming. The battle between man and beast was not ended, only postponed. But Kalyanpur knew this much. When the time came again, they would not face it with fear alone. They would face it with courage, with unity, and with the unyielding will to protect what was theirs.